Hello everybody, my name is Maggie and I'm from Weller Health Education at Lehigh Valley Riley Children's Hospital. What Weller does is we're in charge of making really awesome health programs for people of all ages. Typically our programs are more geared towards kids ages kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade, as well as community members and other parents too. But today I'm talking to you, the amazing teachers out there of our really awesome school districts. Now, your job as a faculty member or a teacher is incredibly difficult, arguably one of the hardest jobs out there. You guys experience incredible amounts of stress, and I want to talk about it. I want to talk about some of those thoughts and feelings you guys may be having, things that you guys may be really facing, especially with COVID, and how to manage your stress a little bit better. Hopefully give you guys some new tips and techniques you guys can incorporate into your daily lives. All right, everybody, let's get started. All right, everybody, so let's get started talking a little bit more about how to handle your stress as an educator, because the day-to-day life as a teacher is really, really difficult. It is arguably one of the hardest jobs out there. I may be a little biased as somebody who travels to schools for a living and does do education programs, but I also have a mom who's a kindergarten teacher. Her job every single day is to get kids on track and ready to learn. And if she doesn't put her mental health first, she will experience burnout and make her job extremely difficult, even more than it already is. So I just want to open things up with a really great quote that just really demonstrates what we want to talk about today about how to handle your stress. So this quote is, "We need to look after ourselves and those we work with if we are to keep great teachers teaching." So this really goes to show how if teachers cannot put themselves first sometimes, their jobs are going to be incredibly difficult to do, if not already. Teachers experience great amounts of burnout and great amounts of stress from their job, especially in recent times, where the pressure on teachers is just going up every single year. So we have to make sure we're looking after you guys and just giving you some great ways to manage that stress that you absolutely do experience on a daily basis. So why it matters, why we want to put your mental health first. Other jobs are absolutely difficult, but nothing can really compare to the stress you experience as an educator. From things like administration, difficult students, difficult parents, all of that creates this huge weight that goes on your shoulders. So why it matters. When we turn our backs on stress management, we open the door to potentially dangerous health effects, and then we're less effective as educators. So the more stress a human being goes through, the more likely you are to experience different health effects, things like a lowered immune system. I'm sure during your busiest times of year, like right before a break or during state testing, that's when many of you came down with those nasty colds. Not only were your kids blowing their noses, but so were you. Because that stress that you experience lowers your immune system, putting you at a higher risk for getting different kinds of infections. Stress takes a toll on pretty much every part of our body. It can cause things like hair loss. It can cause weight gain or weight loss. It can cause chronic headaches, insomnia. It can even damage your heart over time. 52% of educators say they suffer from insomnia, and 84% describe themselves as feeling very stressed. So predominantly, many educators are experiencing these health effects. They're having trouble sleeping at night and feel that stress throughout their day. So we have to find ways to manage your stress, even on those incredibly busy days between work, family life. You have to take a few moments to yourself, identify the source of your stress, and find ways to reduce it if you can. So I want to go over a couple of really simple things that you guys can incorporate into your daily lives, whether you're at work, you're at home, small things that you guys can do that may help you guys reduce that stress a little bit. Now, some of these things may work for you, some of these things may not. Stress management is a very individual process. The things that may work for me may not necessarily work for some of you, but here are a couple that you guys can definitely try. Trying is the big one. Try several things until you find an activity or some resource that really does help to reduce that stress when those feelings are incredibly intense. So one really simple way to help with stress management, and this is something I talk about with people of all ages. We have mental health programs for kids as young as kindergarten, and I still talk about this in every single age level, as including adults, and that is deep breathing. The reason why I talk about it all the time is because it has been proven over and over that it really does work. When you are having those intense moments of stress, your heart rate and your cortisol levels are on the rise. That is what is giving you that intense stress, panicky, anxiety-inducing feeling. When you perform deep breathing, even just for a few short minutes, It lowers your heart rate, bringing you back to a normal level, making you feel much more at ease. So, a really simple way to do deep breathing is by following different techniques that are there on the internet. So, you can find little shapes like this. If you ever just YouTube breathing techniques, they'll have things like this to kind of guide you through how you should do deep breathing. You want to breathe in as the shape increases and breathe out as it decreases. All right, breathing in and out, slow, deep breaths for just a few minutes at a time. You can even count to 5. Pretend you have candles on your hand. As you breathe in, the candles go up, and as you breathe out, the candles go down. You can do this at any point. If you are a teacher who has multiple classes during the day, in between each of those classes, even if you're on hall duty, you can stand in the hallway and do this to yourself. You guys can do this in the conference room. You guys can do this even during bathroom breaks, on your drive home from work before you have to meet your kids. Just take a few minutes and try out deep breathing. It's so great for those really intense moments where those emotions are incredibly overwhelming. Another great way to help with stress management is just getting a change of scenery. Many educators sort of pick up a nice little routine to make their daily lives a little bit easier to follow. But sometimes that routine can only add to our stress, especially if it's the same group of students or same administrators or parents that are causing that stress. So sometimes the best way to get that change of scenery is just to remove yourself from that moment. A simple change of scenery can do wonders for pushing the reset button on your mind. It kind of reshakes your whole thinking, and it shakes loose the monotony and stress of your daily habits. So sometimes we need to just take a little bit of a break. So if you have a moment in between your classes where you can just step away for a couple minutes, maybe go on another floor of the building, step inside another colleague's classroom to just get that different change of scenery during the workday, and especially when you guys are on your way home, if you need to take that extra 5 to 10 minutes of taking that scenic route before you get home and start having to cook dinner or pick your kids up from practice, go for it. Those few extra minutes can really do wonders. I know for me personally, I go to some schools that are pretty far away, but that commute is not always a bad thing. There are some days where I'm at a very difficult school and the kids are just not listening and I leave feeling defeated. So I take my time on the road, I put on my favorite song, and I just really try to check out for a little while. Remove myself from that situation and take some time to decompress, especially before I enter my home and a new wave of stress begins. Take that time for yourself, get a different change of pace, can really help to lower those stress levels, especially in that moment. Next, try to start focusing on self-care. Sometimes you really do have to put yourself first, and I know that's easier said than done, especially for those of you who have families at home. Acts of self-care done with regularity lower stress and help keep us physically and mentally healthy. Now, self-care is different for everybody. Maybe your self-care is walking your dog like me. For me, that is my self-care. Every day when I come home from work, even if it's just for 10 minutes, I take my dog for a walk. Not only is it good for him, but it's good for myself too. It's good for my physical health and my mental health too. That is my form of self-care. Maybe your self-care is just cooking meals, taking some time to journal, turning your phone off for a few minutes. Those are all different ways to focus on yourself, check out for a few minutes, and do things that bring you joy, no matter what it is. Make plans with friends. It is great to socialize. Human beings are social, so take time to hang out with friends, even if you're tired or busy. Even if on a Friday night, the only thing you want to do is sit in your pajamas, even just picking up the phone and calling up some close friends to decompress for a little while and take your mind off of things can really make a difference. Make socializing a priority. It may sound like a secondary thing that we should be doing, especially when we have other priorities like family life, other financial responsibilities, but socializing absolutely should always be a priority. Take an hour, 2 hours a week if you can to meet up with a close friend, take a morning walk, grab a cup of coffee, grab a glass of wine, whatever you guys like to do, but just take that time to socialize. And maybe consider socializing with another group of people that are not educators. I know in my own personal life, my mom growing up as a teacher, she would come home 5, 6 o'clock sometimes, and she would be exhausted and nothing but stressed about the job. And the first thing that she would do is pick up her phone and she would start calling other teachers, and they would just vent and continue to discuss things about work. So try to hang out with people that are maybe not associated with school, and if you are hanging out with other educators, try to talk about other things besides the job. If you're spending your social time just continuing to discuss being an educator, and you end up just bringing your work home with you, Make that time with your friends one that is full of laughter and time for you to just absolutely kick back and relax a little bit and have a few laughs along the way. Next, you need to get your rest. Like that statistic said in the beginning, many teachers experience chronic insomnia. You lay there in bed, you close your eyes, but you cannot shut your brain off. Many of that is due to stress. So you have to find some different ways to help your body fall asleep naturally on its own. So a couple of things that you guys can do to help get better sleep at night, and something you may not want to hear, but things like avoiding caffeine. As teachers, one of your first instincts is when you're feeling that burnout is to grab a cup of coffee. But sometimes you have to resist the temptation and put it down, especially in the afternoon. After 12 o'clock, caffeine should not be a part of any of your drinks. You want to have a caffeine-free afternoon, even when you are experiencing those afternoon sleepies. Just try to push through it, and then at night you can go to sleep and rest without having caffeine still causing those lingering effects of keeping you awake. Make sure at night your devices are on silent. Every single night, as a part of my routine, I always make sure my phone is completely on silent. Because I don't know about you guys, but if my phone buzzes in the night, I do wake up, I check it, and then pretty soon I am checking my emails and stressing about my calendar. Make sure your devices are off or silent. Keep it cool. Human beings have been proven again and again to sleep better when it's cooler. Get a fan in your room. It's okay if the electric bill goes up a few bucks. I think it's worth it to have better rests at night. And then finally, also set some boundaries. Set boundaries with your family members saying, okay, this is the time we're going to sleep at night. This is the time where mommy needs to relax a little bit or daddy needs some alone time. That's okay to set those boundaries. It's okay to say, you know what, how about an hour before bed, we all kind of have some quiet time. We put on a movie, we all get nice and quiet so our bodies can be in relax mode. So remember, educators, it is not selfish to need a rest or a break. You should never feel guilty for saying to your family members or your fellow educators, you know what, I need a break for a few minutes. I need to take a pause. Don't ever feel guilty for that, all right? You guys cannot do it all. It is okay to say no. Sometimes we are pulled in a million different directions. We're expected to be a part of the PTA. We're expected to volunteer for all of our kids' sports, as well as other duties at work. It is okay to say no sometimes. Do not feel guilty about setting those boundaries on your time, okay? If you need to set those boundaries with your spouses or your children or even your students, that is okay, and don't feel guilty for it. Don't feel guilty like you're being a bad educator or a bad parent. You're doing great and you're doing the best you can, but it's okay to have those boundaries with not only the people in your life, but also yourself. And finally, you cannot do it all. I have never met, in all of my years of being an educator and traveling to schools, I have met so many teachers and other educators, and I have never met the perfect one. I don't think the perfect teacher will ever exist or has ever existed. So don't expect yourself to be perfect. You guys cannot do everything all on your own, and it's okay to ask for help sometimes. If your students are out of control or you're really struggling at home, ask somebody in your life if you can have some assistance or some help to make your lives a little bit easier and to help reduce that stress too. All right, everybody, so I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you can all take this to heart and really do try to incorporate some of these things into your lives. I want to make sure you guys are teaching the best way you can, and the only way to do that is to put yourself first. So be sure to have that self-care. Take some time to do some deep breathing. And remember, nobody is perfect, so don't put that pressure on yourself to be perfect. You guys are all amazing, you're all doing a wonderful job, and I hope you guys have an amazing school year. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!